And here we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, to Coffee Talk. That's right, it is time for Coffee Talk or Coffee Talk Live, where we will be talking about what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some excerpts from the news as we read through and have a little bit of open discussion, as it were. And of course, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk on at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And of course, I'll repost thanks to the people who have been able to contribute thus far to the Cat and Chat GoFundMe, as it were. Much appreciated, Gary, Joseph, and Ryan, as we get ready to dive into what's going on in the news. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of the people who have chimed in thus far on the live portion, and I do try to read as many of the comments as I can, as you all know, in case you happen to be listening and not able to see what is going on. I see Helter is there, H12 is there, Brian is here. He says he is Brian. Yes, he is. Dragon is here. New York is here. Sven, Spectre, Jeff from Nashville. And H12 said they would contribute to the cat fund, except they need it for their own herd. That's okay. There's no obligation. It's just there. If anyone is able to help out, it's much appreciated. Legends is here, and Brian wants to know who's sitting in the chair. That is actually Miss Kitty in the chair. Miss Kitty got to the chair ahead of everybody else, and Granny Smith is laid out on the floor there. There's Granny Smith in front of the original PlayStation 2 and Xbox console that are sitting there that I'm going to be selling here shortly. So there we go, as we get ready to dive in and see what's going on in the world today. And we'll start off in New York. And you can imagine what a mess it is there. I'm glad I don't live on the East Coast anymore. Even though I did not live in New York, I lived in Massachusetts. The taxes are terrible. Although, to be fair, on one aspect, in Massachusetts, there was no tax on food. At least not while I was there. They couldn't tax food, but they taxed the hell out of everything else. Legend says they had a wild thought. If the opportunity came when you got invited to the Joe Rogan podcast, would you take it? I don't see why not. I don't know why Joe Rogan would want to talk to me, because I'm not anybody that's all that important, but I suppose I would. I mean, it couldn't hurt to do a collaboration. And let's jump in here. And this is from Savvy Dime News. And there you see Eric Adams. There he is. New York City starts giving out the prepaid debit cards to illegal immigrants in the $53 million pilot program. Thanks, Eric. I'm sure the citizens of New York really appreciate that. And Monkey is here. Glad you could make it today. Here we go. Line up, everybody. Here we are. Line up and get your free gift card, courtesy of the New York City and New York State taxpayers. New York City has initiated. Hey, I'm not ready for that paragraph. Hold still. New York City has initiated a new program under Mayor Eric Adams' administration aiming to support migrants by distributing prepaid debit cards. This week, the program saw its inception with a $53 million contract that was awarded without a traditional bidding process. Here we go again. Every contract that he's put out in the migrant industrial complex that's going on in New York has been a no-bid contract negotiation, which is foolish. If you're dealing with taxpayer money, always have them bid. Always. No, not this guy. There's some hush money going on there. There's some behind the scenes handshakes. The contract, which has been a topic of controversy with Mobility Capital Finance, a New Jersey-based company. So you couldn't even find a company that was in New York so you could keep some of the money there. This is the same argument. I know I'm sidetracking here, but this is the same argument I have about when I get all the political flyers when there's an election going on in Georgia. And if I look at, and I did some video with this a couple of years back, the mailed from addresses, none of them are from within the state of Georgia. So you're running for the position of governor or senate in the state of Georgia, but you outsourced all of your mailing materials to another state entirely. That's insulting. You can't keep it in the state. On Monday at the Roosevelt Hotel, the first 8 MasterCards were distributed as part of this pilot program, which is expected to extend to 115 cards by the end of the week, according to a spokesman from City Hall. I want a gift. Somebody, why don't they send me a gift card? I want a gift card. Come on, Eric Adams. What the hell's up with that? The Adams administration's decision to proceed with a typical bidding or decision. Hold still. The Adams administration's decision to proceed without a typical bidding process has drawn criticism. The contract revealed by the New York Post has sparked discussions regarding its transparency and the implications for the competitive bidding system. The partnership with Mobility Capital Finance is set to potentially generate $1.8 million for the tech startup by taking a cut from the funds loaded onto each MasterCard. Of course, that's how it works. That's how it works. Originally, the plan was to load the cards with a month's worth of money for essentials. However, adjustments have been made requiring cash to be replenished every week instead. Oh, so you know what? If you're on welfare, you can't even get that. You don't get a weekly stipend. It's once a month at a set date, usually based on your birth date, I think. And it usually falls somewhere within a date in the first or second week of the month. Oh no, these guys get it every week. So they're one-upping even welfare recipients here. This change is strategic. This change in strategy reflects an adaptation to the program structure, aiming to provide more continuous support system. A family with 2 parents and children under 5 is set to receive $350 a week. Wow. Wow. And Boogers has joined us. Thanks, Boogers. Glad you could make it today. Inspector says, people are people. No one is a god. We are all flesh. We are not made of gold. No one is more important than anyone else. It's your actions and character that define you. True. And Matthew is here. Thanks for joining us. I see Matthew has a little cat emblem. New York said, I'm natural born yet can't get New York help. No help for you, New York. You're screwed. That's what I was saying. This even one-ups the traditional welfare system, who can only receive a payment once a month. They get it every week. $350 a week. That's like a part-time job. $350 a week. That's a part-time job. Oh, I can't stand it. Nature Nerd says, cut city services and infrastructure maintenance for giving gift cards to non-New Yorkers or non-Americans for that matter. Exactly, because that's what happened. They cut corners all over the place. They cut from their infrastructure. They cut things from the fire department, from the police department, from EMTs, from water and sewage, from sanitation. These are important jobs. These are important jobs. Those are things that have to happen. You can't take money from firefighters. You can't take money from sanitation or sewage. Are you kidding me? I don't care if they take the money from the public schools because those are worthless anyway. But because that was one of the complaints. Oh, you're robbing money from the public schools. They're not doing the job anyway. Or no, I take it back. They are doing the job, but the job isn't to educate your children. It's to unravel them. Helter said, sure, those illegals have a decent stripping, but with inflation on the rise, the purchasing power of their money is next to nothing. I'd still take it. Give me a $350 gift card, somebody. Monkey says, imagine this is what you voted for, to be second-class citizens to the illegals. Oh, and Spectre says their comment was a reply to me going on the Joe Rogan. So I see. Okay, Spectre, because I read that that thing earlier. People are people. No one is a god. Yes, but shows like that, they're looking for somebody that everybody knows to talk to. I don't think that I don't remember the last time I even saw the Joe Rogan show. It's been years. It's been years. New York says it's way past time for them to relocate, if you can. And that's always the thing. That's what everybody says, especially within the prepper community when I talk about prepper type stuff on the prepper channel, Prepper University, that is, or at Prepper University. A lot of people, they're kind of stuck. And so you see all these channels and they're like, you need to get out to the country. And if you're still living in the city, you're a moron. It's not so cut and dry. It really isn't. It's not so cut and dry. It's tough for a lot of people. It's not everybody can just pick up and go. Never mind friends and family, but your property, if you have any, what do you do with it? Are you taking it with you? Do you have to sell it? Do you have to throw it into storage? Can you find another job wherever you're going and a place to stay wherever you're going? There's a lot there, and most people can't really do it. Most people can't really do it, and they're kind of stuck. And I think a lot of people in the prepper community overlook that concept. Dragon says it's by design. The system is obviously broken. The system is obviously broken. The system is working exactly as intended. We're watching poverty migration in real time. It's the Twilight Zone. Yeah, it's the Twilight Zone. Or it's not broken. The system appears to be broken, but it's not broken because it is doing what it's designed to do. And that's basically to unravel everything and make a damn mess out of it. And there's not too much we can do about that. Not too much we can do about that, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I had an easier answer for you, and I couldn't just sit here and state the obvious, but I'm not in a position to change anything either. And anyone who would be in a position to change isn't going to listen to me. They know what to do. They know what needs to be done. They're just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. Brian says there's always some smartass who says to leave if you don't like it, as if it's that easy. It's not. Not unless you have nothing left to lose. You got nothing. You got nothing, and you're just like, you know what? I'm out of here. But wherever you go, starting up is not easy. Finding a place to stay, finding a job, all these things are hard. All those things are hard. It gets harder all the time. It's not like back in the days of Route 66. If anyone remembers that television show with, what were their names on that show? Todd and Link. No, Link was the second guy because Todd remained constant on the show. And Todd and Buzz, right, was the first group. And then Buzz left the show because he actually had pneumonia. I know I'm on a bunny trail now. He had pneumonia because of a film that they did on the beach where he was submerged in water for extended period of times, and he got sick. And then they fired him because he was too sick to work and replaced him with a guy called Link. And Link did a great job on the show, but he wasn't Buzz. You know what I mean? So people are like, who's this? But anyway, my point, they could just drive around the country and walk in somewhere and say, hey, you hiring? And they'd work there for a few days, a few weeks, a month, whatever. You can't do that anymore. I used to do that when I was a kid. That's how I got jobs. I got under the table jobs all the time. Just walk in. I worked in a flower shop. Just walked in one day. Hey, you hiring? Do you know anything about flowers? No, but I'll do whatever you need me to. Okay. You got a job, kid. Stuff like that. I worked at IHOP. IHOP, of course, you got a paycheck. I did janitorial work. I did landscaping. I did all kinds. And I was a kid. I've been working since I was 10. But you can't do any of that anymore. You can't. Spectre says people need to think outside the box and go on homesteading sites and find like-minded people. Yeah, there are communities, and some of them will help you. H12 said they've moved across the country several times. If you need a job, If you have a job waiting, it's not that expensive. Yeah, but it is still a lot involved in that, the logistics of it, finding work in another state, setting that up. Yeah, and not everybody has a professional job either. It's hard. Nature Nerd says if Coffee Talk was on the Joe Rogan show, the message that slave dependents in the South have property reparations already would get out there. Yeah, if they talked about that, if that came up in the topic of discussion. As we shift around, we're going to jump from New York. We're going to jump from New York to Chicago. Who wants to go to Chicago? Anybody? I don't. I used to live in Illinois, of course. Chicago's a dump. Sorry. Cook County is a mess. And here's more proof. Daily Mail article, Chicago mayor refuses to admit how much is spent on migrant shelters. He don't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to admit to how much money has been wasted. No, it's already embarrassing enough. That man's haircut is embarrassing enough. What is he going for there? What is he trying to do? I can't get past it. Anyways, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has been criticized for refusing to be completely transparent on where hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars have gotten to the city's homeless shelters amid the migrant crisis. The Windy City has struggled to care for more than 34,000 asylum seekers bussed in from the border by Texas Governor Greg Abbott over the last 18 months. Yeah, it's all his fault. And none of them flew in under the Biden administration with their pilot program either, right? That didn't happen. It has spent $300 million on the crisis and has been fighting with the state of Illinois about where to build more shelters and is currently fighting a measles outbreak at one of the shelters. And again, that measles outbreak, I heard, 2 people got measles? I don't know if that's accurate or not, because I haven't really looked it up, but I doubt it's a real outbreak. The state attempted to quell fears on how taxpayer money would be spent on the crisis by launching a page on the state's comptroller website that would track it. However, the city has refused to reveal where all the funds are going, with the Democrat Johnson being evasive with questions by the press. The city has only provided full transparency on funding for 1/3 of the city's 27 shelters. However, the ones that they did are getting as much as $344,000 a week in taxpayer money, which is the price tag for the inn in Chicago. It has 1,500 beds. That would make out to $17 million a year in taxpayer payments. Wow. Wowzers. And if the shelters are full of migrants, where are the actual homeless people sleeping? Other shelters, like the site in the city's Plisson neighborhood, are getting $280,000 a week, with the Ogden shelter getting $150,000 a week. These shelters are servicing 2,000 and 1,000 migrants respectively, and pocketing millions over the last 3 months. The Pilsen shelter is notable for an outbreak of measles that now has 14 cases. Okay, there's 14. There's a confirmation. That's still not bad. With the city forced to mandate vaccinations. Oh, really? You're mandating vaccinations again? Yeah, that'll go over well. What's caused even more outrage is the city allegedly hiding where those funds are going by using out-of-state private companies to staff the shelters. And that's something we read about before, that they're not even using people from within their own state, that they are outsourcing. They're outsourcing. They got people flying in from other states to work in these shelters, and they're getting paid insane amounts of money. Insane amounts of money. We talked about that several times. Brian says you have to fill out applications online, mostly get interviewed and ask retarded work experience and other questions to get a job. Yeah, I know. And H12 said they moved 40 times over the year. Good Lord. That's a lot, actually. I know I've moved a bunch of times. I don't think it's 40, though. Not quite that much. I had to move around a lot when I was living in Massachusetts, though, because everything is so damn expensive. Um, yeah, online job applications. I hate that stuff. You know which question I really hate, and it's typically an interview question, is when they ask you to reveal one of your weaknesses. Like I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what. Oh, one of my weaknesses is that I'm just a people person. Shut up. I'm not. I'm not telling you any weaknesses. Forget it. Interview is over. Surefire way to lose your job or lose your opportunity. That is, because that's not a question I would answer. If I thought I had a weakness, why the hell would I tell you? Who are you? Some guy conducting an interview, reading questions that you can't answer yourself, and I've already forgotten your name. I'm going to answer. I'm going to tell you my weakness. Yeah, sure, that'll happen. Spectre says if you're a home remodeler, it makes moving a lot easier, even in small country towns. And there's Take America says, what's new in the news? Too many things to list. It's happening faster and faster. Yes, that is true. And Brian said questions that might I add are not relevant to the job they're being interviewed for. That's often the truth also. And then Nature Nerd said where 2/3 of the money's going that they aren't transparent about. They don't want you to know how much they're actually spending because it's more than what they're saying. It really is. And Dragon says Brandon Johnson can't quit now because if he does, he's going to have to pay back the money they gave him. And Nature Nerd says if you work at a chain store, it's easy to get the same job in another town or city. And some people work at multiple locations if they aren't getting enough hours at a store. Yeah, that's true. Like when I transferred from Kansas to Illinois with Durham, Illinois wanted me to work for them, but it just wasn't working out. Their union just scared me off. I didn't want to deal with it. I thought their union was shady. So I was like, no, I can't do this. You're offering me like an extra $1.30 an hour, but you're taking it back in dues, and then you're not paying for any of the licensing fees. I think they do now, but they weren't then. And I was like, no, I'm getting hosed. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Another question that I used to hate was the one where it asks you, how many people do you know, or what percentage of people that you know do you think smoke marijuana? And it goes like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60%, whatever. This is a question I remember from way back. I think it was when I worked at Walmart like a million years ago. It was one of the questions. How many people, what percentage of people that you know smoke marijuana? And there was nothing lower than 10%. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know anybody who smokes marijuana. At least if they do, I don't know about it. How can I answer that question? I can't honestly answer the question. All I can do is choose the lowest amount because they insist on at least 10%. Like I know what they do in the privacy of their own homes. Monkey said the worst questions are the ones that have nothing to do with the job, like where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years, or what animal would you be and why? Oh yeah, stupid psychobabble questions. Unbelievable. As we shift around, we're going to jump to, actually, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Washington, D.C., and take a look at a policy shift here. Designed, here it comes, to entice younger voters. We're going to entice those younger voters. We're going to draw them in. LA Times article. Biden at risk with young voters is racing to shift their marijuana policy. Uh-huh. We're going to shift. I love the marijuana flags there, sure. So here we go. There's such hypocrisy in this, which I'm sure you all are aware of, but I'm going to spell it out anyways when I get to it. Article reads, Vice President Kamala Harris looked up from prepared remarks in the White House's ornate Roosevelt room this month to make sure the reporters in the room could hear her clearly. Yeah, she has to have it written down or else she can't remember anything. You know who you're dealing with. Quote, Nobody should have to go to jail for smoking weed. Uh-huh. Word, brother. Nobody should have to go to jail for smoking weed, brah. Cheech and Chong for president. Harris's marijuana reform roundtable. Marijuana reform roundtable. That's a quote. Was a striking reminder of how the politics have shifted for a one-time prosecutor raised in the just say no era of zero tolerance drug enforcement as President Biden seeks badly needed support from young people. His administration is banking on cannabis policies as a potential draw. And that's exactly where I was going with this. This is the first thing I was thinking of, actually, is that there's such hypocrisy there, because this is the guy who, in 50 years of politics, the only thing he has tried to actually do is crush people with the law for any kind of illicit drug use. That's the only thing that was what he championed back in the day as a senator. He wanted to grind you into powder if you got caught with a doobie. He wanted to destroy you. Now all of a sudden it's nobody should go to jail for weed. You know what I'm saying? President Homeboy, we're going to hook you up. It's sickening. Monkey says the worst thing this country has done was remove the requirement of owning property in order to vote on things like the elections. And Take America says gays, dope, degenerates, invaders, theft. It's Biden's MAGA. Exactly. And Sven says, then why does she send and keep people mostly black in jail for weed? There you go. Good question. And Take America said Biden's just a puppet, scapegoat, asshat. I can't read that last part. Take America, I'm going to get a yellow strike again. Oh, I'm going to anyways, but I don't want to make it easy on them. Let's put it like that. But that's exactly what this is. Just pandering to a younger crowd. And it is fast becoming a cultural thing, especially within the black community, I've noticed, unfortunately. I've mentioned before, you know, whenever my wife and I go anywhere, we can't go anywhere without smelling weed somewhere. You know, we go out, we get out of this car and walk through the parking lot, we smell weed. We pass people, we smell weed. We go into stores, we go in PetSmart, we smell weed. We go, it's so sad. It's so sad. We're driving in traffic and suddenly can smell weed coming from the car in front of us. That happened to us 3 times when we were out this past weekend. It's like, oh my God, again. And it's not even legal in Georgia. It's not even legal in Georgia. It's incredible. And they've gone from wanting to destroy you for smoking this stuff to trying to encourage it now, because it makes people so complacent. So complacent. I think, what was it? I think it was South Park that did it best when they did their weed episode. He says, listen, I don't think, he says, here's the truth. I don't think it's really going to necessarily hurt you, but it makes you okay with just sitting around and doing nothing all day. And I don't want that for you. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's a great point. You want to sit around and smoke weed all day and not live or do anything useful. That's what it leads you to. Hey, Uncle. Come here, buddy. Uncle's in the room. It says Biden made similar comments to Harris in this month's State of the Union address. Though the 81-year-old president used the term marijuana instead of weed, the administration is highlighting its decision to grant clemency for pot possession as it races to have cannabis reclassified under the Controlled Substances Act before Biden faces votes in November. Quote, what's good about this issue is it's clean and it's clear and it cuts through. Sure it does. Sure it does, people. But you know, the real reason they want to do this is because they want to tax it. They want to turn it into a full-fledged sin tax like they did with alcohol. Prohibition was working. It actually was working. But they decided they needed the money. Gambling used to be illegal too everywhere. Then state lotteries crept in. Then casinos started creeping in all over the country, finding excuses to set up a casino. Oh, well, if it's in a ferry boat on the wharf, it's not technically on land, so we can have a casino on the boat. Oh, well, if it's on an Indian reservation, it's technically separate from the federal government, so we can do that. Just an excuse to tax the hell out of everything. Nature Nerd says marijuana stinks up the whole block. The smell carries in the wind way more than cigarettes. It sucks. We have to smell that on a weekly basis now that it is legal. Where are you, Nature Nerd? I forget. Take America said, too bad people can't smell fentanyl. If they could, they'd probably chase it down harder. Brian says, what's your thoughts on the argument of legalized weed will put drug dealers out of business? No, it won't. No, it won't. Anybody here in California right now? Because I've heard the argument made in California that it's cheaper to buy it illegally now than it is to buy it from the state because of how high the taxes are. And Helter says this is the modern day version of the British introducing opium to the Chinese to make it easier for them to invade China. Well, to try to control China. Anyways, because they knew they could never invade China. That's why they were satisfied with just possessing Hong Kong. The country's way too big. It would be a disaster to try to invade the entire country. Sort of like what happened to Napoleon during his second run at striking Europe, when he tried to pull Russia into the fold. And invading into the interior of Russia was a mistake. It's just too big, too much wilderness. H12 says, all the world's leaders should be required to snack on brownies during negotiations. Oh, you've been watching Ollie G, haven't you? And Take America says, weed doesn't make lazy people lazy, being lazy does. Yeah, but it makes it easier on them. Sit around and smoke weed all day. It's pathetic. And Zane is here. Glad you could make it. As I try to catch up on some of the comments and shift around here. New York says that's true. Street weed is cheaper now. Yeah, isn't that crazy? That it's gotten cheaper. And Monkey says they noticed something with the drugs. There's mushrooms that are available out in the wilderness that give you the drug-induced vision. Do they? I'm not looking for anything like that. Not looking for anything like that. Now, we're gonna jump. We're gonna take a huge leap from Washington D.C. and we're gonna jump all the way to Europe, and we're gonna take a look at the border. We're gonna talk about the border, not the southern border, not the northern border. We're gonna talk about the Polish border in Belarus. I don't know if anyone has seen this in the news. Belarus taking their border very. This is from Ukrainska Pravda, because I think Belarus borders Poland and Russia, right? If I'm not mistaken. Lukashenko orders all border violators from neighboring countries to be shot. They will be killed if they try to cross the border. Self-proclaimed Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko, well, self-proclaimed or not, he's in charge, okay? So whether you like it or not. While visiting the area where the combat readiness of troops is being checked, has ordered them not to hesitate and kill any border violators. Oh, I love it. Quote, I will say publicly any provocation must be stopped by armed force. There is no reason to joke with them. If they violate the state border, they must be killed. No one should hesitate, and that is what we will do. Incredible. Lukashenko believes that border violators, and this is a quote, understand only force. Therefore, any violation of the state border is subject to punishment by death. Lukashenko did not specify which country's citizens are currently violating his border. I bet you if they were, they ain't now. Oh, no. On the 11th of March, the Ministry of Defense of Belarus announced an inspection of the combat readiness of formations of military units. It was reported that the inspection was comprehensive. The personnel will have to conduct a series of exercises and training sessions, including line or live fire exercises. They're not fooling around in Belarus. So we don't want you people crossing the border. They're going to teach you. They are going to teach you to stay the hell off their border. And Semper Fi is here, and he says, just got notified you were live. Unbelievable how late they are. And I didn't get my notification yet either. You know, I keep a thing there to get a prompt when whenever I go live. It's supposed to let me know that I'm live. So I get a prompt from myself, and it usually doesn't come in until around 2:30, but I didn't get it today. I guess I didn't get it till I didn't get it today, not yet anyway, so we will see. But I'm sorry to hear that. But remember, I try to remind everybody that the live starts at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, unless otherwise specified. Right, buddy? But anyways, Belarus, showing you how it's done. That's how it's done in a lot of countries, quite frankly. They shoot you or they arrest you and they call you a spy and they hold you in jail for 10 years. They're not fooling around. H12 said they thought it was pronounced Belarus, rhymes with goose. You could be right. I might have read it incorrectly. I don't remember. I don't remember. I could have pronounced that incorrectly. Take America said that will send a message, and Nature Nerd says don't think that many people will cross into Belarus with a dictatorship to begin with. They'll shoot you on the way out too, though. They'll shoot you on the way out too. I think you might be right, H12. I just don't remember. I can't remember everything. I read it as I see it, and that's how it is. I try, though. I do try. But, you know, if I'm going to make a mistake, at least that's not that bad. But that's what's going on in Europe. Yeah, I know. I imagine that, well, maybe people trying to escape from the Ukraine's nearby there too, isn't it? Maybe trying to escape from having to go on the line of fire in the Ukraine or Russians. And he was like, "No, you ain't hiding in my country. You're not going to be like Canada during Vietnam. Get the hell out of here or we'll shoot you." And Zane says, "Strange days we're living in." Yes, indeed. Did that come up? And H12 says they're a spaz. Don't worry about it. You're probably right. Like I said, I can't remember everything, and I'll screw up pronunciations from time to time. Uncle, there you go. Stretching out there in front of Granny Smith, who is ignoring him. He's trying to be nice. He's trying to be nice there. Poor old uncle. You having a good time? So I have 3 felines keeping me company currently. Getting ahead of myself here. We're going to jump from Europe all the way to Atlanta and give you an example of how it is that no good deed goes unpunished. No good deed goes unpunished, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to show you as I pull this story up. And this is, of course, Atlanta. This is something that's happening in Atlanta. But the concept applies to everyone. Fox News article, squatters sue Good Samaritan and trash his property after he allowed temporary free stays. An Atlanta property owner explained how his good deed turned into a nightmare after squatters took advantage of his kindness and trashed his property. "It just got out of hand," David Morris told Fox and Friends on Wednesday. The saga began about 10 years ago when Morris left 4 people let 4 people live on his 9-acre Georgia property for free temporarily on the condition that they help maintain the land. The property was previously the site of a nonprofit that Morris ran to help distribute food to those in need in the community. Morris, who now lives in California, closed the nonprofit during the pandemic when he noticed more people had moved onto the land. There's a shot of his property. That's what it looks like when you open the door, I guess. Or is that a dumpster? That could be is that a barn or a dumpster door? So here we go. People with addictions and mental health issues had taken over the land and brought with them RVs, tents, and trash, Morris said. He's had to hire cleaning crews and pay $10,000 to clean up his property. The property owner filed an eviction but was unable to remove the squatters because the city of Atlanta placed a moratorium on evictions at the time. That was convenient. One squatter even tried to sue Morris for $200,000, but his case was dropped after he didn't show up in court. Morris told Fox 5 Atlanta that he received a writ of possession last week so he can finally evict the squatters. He wants them gone so he can build affordable housing on the land. David Pierre, Morris's attorney, explained how squatters have caused a headache for Atlanta property owners, but lawmakers are trying to address the crisis with new legislation. A new bill, and this is why they're talking about this. HB 1017 would impose clear criminal penalties on squatters and those who falsify leases. Co-sponsored Representative Devin Seabaugh told Fox News Digital the bill will protect homeowners and speed up the process for evicting squatters. And what's funny about that is they took property owners' rights to throw people off their land or out of their homes or out of their apartments. They took that right away in the first place, and now they're patting themselves on the back for granting it back, for giving those rights back to these people. So you took away their rights to defend their land and property, and now you're going to give it back and act like you're championing something. There you go. Puck says that Florida passed an anti-squatter law. Monkey says the only acceptable squatting is squatting on BlackRock properties in Texas. Get a nice home mansion and manage to keep it running for some amount of time. You get to claim it. I've heard of people trying that, but they usually end up getting kicked out somehow. Monkey says, why pay for a home when you can squat there and get more rights than the homeowner? It's scary, isn't it? Scary, isn't it? Dragon says adverse possession law in Georgia is some of the toughest in America. And Take America says we don't mess around here, but how long will that last? Yeah. And Helter says, as bad as this is, Morris is partially at fault. He created the situation by not drawing up a contract for those who are staying on the property. That's true too. That's true to me. He tried to be the quote good Samaritan. He's running a charity. He's running a food pantry. All this stuff. Thought that he was just going to be friendly. I'll help some people out. Whatever. You can't help nobody. You can't help people. They'll screw you. They'll screw you over. They'll find some way to do it, or they'll be connected to some person who's going to screw you. Somehow or other, you're going to get screwed. That's what's going to happen. And it's unfortunate that so many people in the world have to be so dishonest, so petty, so evil-minded, so destructive. And it doesn't even serve them a purpose. I mean, they were living there for free anyways. They had to destroy the place. They had to destroy the place. And H12 says if your deed doesn't give you any rights, what is the certificate going to do? And then Paul says, hello from the communist state of New Jersey. Please send help. I need all the help I can get. And then Brian says, not to mention ungrateful. Correct. You know who is grateful, though? Come here, buddy. See if I can get a hold of him. If he feels like cooperating. Come here, come here, Uncle. Come here, Uncle. Good boy. Come here. Here he is. Here's a grateful animal. This is why I like animals better than people. Hi. How are you today? They're grateful. Even if they don't like you, they're grateful. Fortunately, Uncle does like me, or else I couldn't handle him like this. Right? I think you're more than 20 pounds now. This is why, because remember when I did the video rebuttal, the mailbag video rebuttal, and somebody says, it's because of people like you. You'd rather help a cat or a dog than a person. Yeah, if it's somebody like you, sure. Because you're an ass. You're not an ass, though, are you, Uncle? You're a good boy. He's a good boy. He's grateful. He's happy. Right? See? There you go. Here, I'll let you go. I know you want to go finish screwing around with Granny Smith there. And here we go, all of the here we go with all of the all the cat comments now. And Puck says squatters are entitled to double O buckshot. And a shovel. And a shovel. And what is it? Sven says anarcho-tyranny, the law can hurt you but not help you. Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately. The law hurts you more than it helps you more often than not. And speaking of getting hurt, we're going to jump to Mississippi. Mississippi. To get this to come up properly here. Wait for it to load. Mississippi taking a cue from Texas. Taking a cue from Texas. Get ready for this one. If you have not heard this story yet, wait for it to boot up. Any second now. And I see Fluke Man has joined us. He said they forgot. That's okay, Fluke Man. Glad you could make it. Fox News article. Mississippi hits BlackRock with cease and desist and threatens a massive fine over ESG policies. Wow. And then Urban Angst has joined us. So here we go. The state of Mississippi has issued a cease and desist order to trillion-dollar asset manager BlackRock, alleging the firm has committed fraud by misleading investors through its climate policies. Late on Tuesday, Mississippi Secretary of State Michael Watson's office delivered the order and notice of intent to impose an administrative penalty, which could amount to a first-of-its-kind multi-million-dollar fine against BlackRock, an action targeting the so-called environmental, social, and governance investing. Watson claims BlackRock has repeatedly misled Mississippi investors pertaining to its broader ESG agenda. Investment companies will not push their political agenda on Mississippians, especially through fraudulent and deceptive means, Watson said in a statement shared with Fox Business. All citizens should have the opportunity to make informed and educated decisions when investing their hard-earned money. If not, our office will hold these bad actors accountable. In the order delivered to BlackRock, Watson takes aim at the firm related to its handling of non-ESG funds it manages. While BlackRock states those exchange-traded funds and bonds do not seek to follow a sustainable impact or ESG investment strategy, Watson argues these representations are false and misleading because they run contrary to BlackRock's public ESG commitments. And as you recall, Texas has already essentially fired BlackRock and canceled a massive contract with them over their ESG policies. And now Mississippi is following suit. They're threatening them with a lawsuit and a massive fine. And they're wanting BlackRock to back down too. And then Take America says everything seems like a fake show, like the Truman Steinberg show. And then Nature Nerd says, why doesn't BlackRock make homes for the homeless? Because the homeless can't pay them anything. Homeless don't have any money. They get the money from the state. BlackRock works for the state anyway. BlackRock and Vanguard own most of the prisons in the country. Rodney made a donation to the channel. He says ESG and DEI is massive contributing factor to the downward spiral of the Western industry. That is correct. And thank you very much for the donation, Rodney. Very much appreciated. Need all the help I can get. Puck says Mississippi's going to mess around and get raided by Biden's crooked Department of Justice. Oh, man. And Dragon says this is nothing new to BlackRock community, but for some reason this feels like a distraction from something else. It could be. It could very likely be. And then Urban says, I'm curious how the wealth redistribution went in Russia shortly after the 1917 revolution. I'm wondering if it was a version of squatters' rights that allowed for communal apartment takeovers. Well, we all know how things worked out for the former Soviet Union after the revolution in 1917. That went very badly for everybody. It never worked out. It never worked out for them. But this is Mississippi now, chomping at the bit with BlackRock. And I've heard that there's some other states that are having beefs with them too, but Texas and Mississippi are the two big standouts thus far. And speaking of money, I thought this was really interesting. And this is a South Carolina article. Something happening in South Carolina. It's another Fox News article, actually. But it's local news in South Carolina. And I think this is surprisingly interesting. This is one that's kind of flying under the radar for now. We'll see where it goes as I pull this up. Again, Fox News article. Come on now. Come on, Restream, let's go. South Carolina found a state bank account with $1.8 billion, but they have no idea what it's for. They don't know what it is. It's their account. It's the state's money, but they don't know what it is. They're confused. Lawmakers in South Carolina are trying to untangle a state bank account that inexplicitly holds $1.8 billion, with officials saying they do not know where it came from or what it was intended to fund. Governor Henry McMaster assured the public on Tuesday that no money was lost. The bank account seems to be the result of ongoing accounting troubles for the state arising from a computer system transition in the late 2010s. The South Carolina Senate has established a panel to investigate the funds. Yeah, that's what you do. Oh my God, that's the solution to everything. Let's put together a committee to research this. I hate that. Lending to the effort is Republican State Senator Larry Grooms, who likened the situation to going into your bank and the bank president tells you we have a lot of money in our vault, but we just don't know who it belongs to. Yeah, it belongs to the state. You just don't know why it's there. We're far and removed here from doing the laundry and checking your pockets and finding that dollar you forgot about, or finding some coins on the floor of your car. That's $1.8 billion. $1.8 billion unaccounted for, sitting in a state bank account that there's no record of. There's a lot of questions here. Investigative accountants are still trying to untangle the mess, but it appears that every time the state's books were out of whack, money was shifted from somewhere into an account that helped to balance it out, according to lawmakers. That's shady by itself. Treasurer Curtis Loftus has failed to provide answers regarding the cash, saying that only that he succeeded in accruing some $200 million in interest to the state. He argues the lack of information regarding where the money is supposed to go is the fault of the Comptroller General, Brian Gaines. Okay, so it's his fault. So let's keep passing the buck here. it's Curtis's fault, then it's Brian's fault, then it's somebody else's fault. Loftus argued earlier this month that Gaines is attempting to shift responsibility to clean up the mess to the treasurer. Because that's what you do when you're a lawmaker, you shift blame. Both Loftus and Gaines have been summoned to appear before Groom's panel. Groom's noted Gaines has responded to every question posed by lawmakers so far in the investigation, while Loftus has not. Loftus don't want to talk to investigators. Governor McMaster says that the state will hold off any plans to spend the $1.8 billion until it can verify whether it was intended to be spent elsewhere. Quote, that's a lot of money, and there's no need to hurry up and try and spend it, according to McMaster. Yeah, don't hurry up and spend any of that. Oh, my God. Oh, Governor Comeover, bringing the Comeover back. Henry McMaster, living in the 70s. Look at this. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Man, just shave it off. Just give up. I think if I was thinning out that bad, I would just shave my head. My wife would probably make me too. Probably make me do it. Oh no. Let me wow, this went way behind here. Let me catch up some of these comments or try. Zane says $1 billion could buy every homeless person a house 5 times over. They would just wreck it though, most of them. Puck says $1.8 billion is for Soylent Green. Yeah, there you go. Helter said South Carolina legislators are very frugal. They won't spend it until they have successfully legislated a scheme to either line their pockets with it or give more tax breaks to the top 5% or both. Dragon says where it came from, the pockets of the working people, where it will go to the wealthy and well-connected. Yeah, if they don't know where it's from, they should give it back. Cut everybody in the state a check. Georgia did that a couple of times, actually. It wasn't big. It's like $100 and something, but there was a Georgia refund because of a tax surplus. They did that a couple of times. Nature Nerd says, unbelievable scandal and corruption. $1.8 billion bank account of South Carolina since 2010 generates interest. Someone is siphoning off funds. That could be. You know what it makes me think of? John Travolta in Swordfish. Who remembers that movie? What was the plot? John Travolta in Swordfish, a forgotten bank account that belonged to the government that he was trying to gain access to, that had some hundreds of millions of dollars in it, correct? Because he works for a secret government organization, and that's how they fund themselves, with forgotten bank accounts. Oh, man. And Take America says it's game over, steal what you can while you can thinking. Yeah. And Zane says, true, who knows how much money the government embezzles? Yeah, who knows what that money's for, or what it was needed for, or how it got there. But they're not getting any straight answers. And Take America says they'll rebuild it to a 15-minute jail. I know what you're talking about there. You're talking about 15-minute cities. Flukeman says 1.8 billion isn't a lot considering U.S. Is 33 trillion in debt and spending countless amounts on things should never have been put on the table: illegal immigrants, left-wing, right-wing education, transistor children, and etc. Yeah, I know it's a lot of money, and it's not. It's not a lot of money in comparison to the debt, but it's still a considerable amount of money, right, Granny Smith? Right, Granny Smith? Come here. You want to say hi to anybody? You want to say hi? Come here. Good girl. Okay, Granny Smith. Granny Smith, everybody. To distract you from the $1.8 billion that someone in South Carolina tried to misappropriate. Someone was going to steal that money, weren't they? And they were going to go live in the Cayman Islands. Isn't that right, sweetheart? Granny Smith, everybody. There you go. You want to say hi to everybody? She likes to dig her nails into my beard. Sweet little thing. But yeah, I just think that's interesting. That was really interesting that much money is missing. Or no, that much money was found and they can't even tell you where the hell it came from. Miss Kitty, don't do that. And Rodney says that amount of money, that amount of debt is terrifying. Yes, indeed. As guess what, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the top of the hour. So we are going to go ahead and start signing off. Again, this is Coffee Talk. You are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and it is at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University in or on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on Twitter, formerly known as X, or X formerly known as Twitter. I had a little dyslexic moment there. And fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Special thanks to Rodney, who made a donation to the channel today. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Thanks again to everybody who was able to join us here today. And as always, hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will catch you.